Now more than ever, innovative technologies are fueling change and sparking new ways of thinking. Collaboration between corporations and startups is key to staying at the forefront of these trends. However, finding the right startups can be expensive, time-consuming, and ineffective. But Plug and Play is here to help. As a corporate partner, you will gain access to a whole ecosystem of innovation. Discover startups that meet your tech interests. Stay updated on the latest trends and network with industry peers. We will help you during every stage of your innovation journey, no matter where you are and where you want to go. Get in touch today.
I am the Director of the Economic Development and Finance Division for the North Dakota Department of Commerce. Been in this role for about a year. Prior to that, I was head of investments and innovation for Commerce, and prior to that, I had a medical device company in Fargo. But yeah, I'm excited about this because as North Dakota, we look at diversification of our economy. We have these two industry pillars of energy and agriculture that make up about 70% of our economy. And I believe diversification and resiliency is not in, we need pillars 3, 4, and 5. It's how do we take and play to our strengths and develop resiliencies and diversification within those two pillars that currently exist. So because of that, we have a big focus in Agtech and a lot of incentives that go along with that, whether it's maybe the most business-friendly tax environment in the entire United States, the only state that has its own state-owned bank with the Bank of North Dakota that kind of acts like the Federal Reserve in a way, but specific to the bank or specific to the state of North Dakota, where they are able to de-risk private sector banking to encourage, more economic development and entrepreneurship. So I believe that's, a key differentiator that North Dakota has. We're the only state that has our own state mill as well. So about 105 years ago, the legislature stood up the North Dakota State Mill and State Bank. And today, those are two kind of cornerstones of our economic development and agriculture industry that we get to leverage. So beyond that, we have a bunch of investment tools that I think are pertinent here beyond the Bank of North Dakota, because a lot of early stage companies, banking is not usually what comes to mind first. But we have a program that Shaden oversees that we just met today. It's called LIFT. It's a $15 million program for commercialization of intellectual property. And that is structured as non-dilutive financing. It's technically a loan, but there are 0 payments on that for 3 years, 2% interest only for 2 years. And then it essentially gets refinanced and converted to the Bank of North Dakota rate in year 6. And so the purpose of that is funding something through R&D and development, allow you to capture revenues before you start making payments on it. And there is no collateral required, no personal guarantee. So it doesn't affect your ability to go out and get other financing. It's essentially non-collateralized debt that has a 5-year, payment structure that's very, conducive to startup activity. So that's one of the best economic development financing tools that we have in our toolbox. It's been appropriated $15 million each of the last 2 sessions. There is legislation in what's called a streams bill that would fund that to a far greater amount, likely in the next session, probably somewhere between 50 to 60 million as it stands today. That could obviously be revised, but really cool program. The other one that I'll touch on too is North Dakota Development Fund. So the Development Fund all in all has, with the new SSBCI dollars from the federal government that we'll be receiving in March, just short of probably $100 million under management. And what we can do there is pretty much any form of flexible financing. So convertible notes, straight debt, straight equity investments. A lot of times we end up partnering with a lead bank and the Bank of North Dakota and essentially taking the collateral position that no one else wants or is comfortable with in the name of economic development. So another great tool, the funding limit on that is $3 million. But really, really flexible financing that's meant to kind of be a gap filler. Beyond that, a bunch of really cool programs, grant-wise with the Ag department and beyond. But the key ones I would say are just, at a macro level, we have this great infrastructure in terms of the enterprise software talent that exists in the state, married with, we're number one in 12 different ag product production in the world. We have some really cool companies here like Bobcat and John Deere and Case and a lot of autonomous systems investments that the state's made. So the last two legislative sessions received tens of millions of dollars to build out a beyond visual line of sight network for drone usage. And a lot of that is to further the energy and ag industries in North Dakota. So we have this great macro environment for innovation in this space. And then we have a bunch of financial tools as well to help, get projects across the finish line. And so, so how do you apply for this? A lot of it is housed through the North Dakota Department of Commerce. So on our Commerce website, under Economic Development and Finance, you'll find all of the funding programs, both LIFT and the Development Fund. And maybe when Ryan or John is talking, I can put a link to those things in the chat as well for you guys. So, yeah.
Good deal. Thanks, Josh. Oh, looks like you got a few more questions here.
Yeah, so it's a good question. Not necessarily incorporated, doesn't need to be, but what we call, and a lot of times there has to be some form of meaningful presence. And so some of the funding for companies that have operations elsewhere will put in place what's called a presence agreement, which basically says you have to have X number of employees here, X, percentage of payroll, or you just have to have some form of significant operation here where the dollars that our North Dakota, incentives would be investing in, those dollars are going to stay within the state, further economic development here and not, flow elsewhere. So it doesn't require you to be incorporated here or headquartered here, but it more comes down significant operation, which can be defined on a case-by-case basis.
Cool. Any other questions for Josh? We will share out the contact information too in the recording after this. So, all right, good deal. We have Ryan and John here. So Ryan, if you want to take it away for the EDC.
Thank you. Yeah, so John joined us just in time. Maybe I should intro. So my name is Ryan Aasheim. I'm the Chief Business Development Officer here with the Greater Fargo Moorhead Economic Development Corporation. So I'm going to tell you about all the great things about our region and our community and why, we've got a world-class ecosystem here for Agtech development. And I think really, as economic developers, we're always trying to encourage growth and expansion and activities to occur within kind of the territory that we represent. But really, I think more than that, I think we add value by virtue of our ability to make connections. And so whether that is a connection that happens to fill a technological gap in our region, maybe your company is providing and unfortunately, I don't know all your companies yet, but I hope to get the chance to know you. Maybe fills a technological gap of a company that's got you're providing a sensor technology or an algorithm that helps them, or vice versa. So I think larger than kind of the more obvious traditional economic development activities. We want to know how we can help you, make meaningful connections, whether it's in our region or outside. And as I'm looking at the companies, I saw GreenSight, and I'm like, I know that name. I'm pretty sure I met one of your, I might have been a founder a few years ago, spoke at UAS Summit in Grand Forks. And at that time, I think you were exclusively focused on golf course, doing flights, flying out of Boston everywhere. Well, I think in a number of states around the country.
Correct,
so, yeah. So that's cool to see your name there. So I do have a little bit of background in UAS, helped put the UAS Summit in Grand Forks on for a number of years, which I think is the second oldest unmanned aircraft systems conference in the country. And then also in Agtech, put an event on there for a few years. So maybe I'll let John do a quick introduction on himself, and then I'll kind of jump in. I do have a slide deck, unfortunately, that I'm going to make you sit through. But I'll let John talk because I might not shut up later.
Yeah, and I'll just make it simple and basically just say who I am. So John Machacek, I work along Ryan at the EDC. Been in economic development a long time and know the community really well, and we all try to partner really well here. And that's kind of something you'll find too as you get connected with us, is that there's no 6 degrees of separation here. It's like 2 or 3. So it's very easy to kind of get connected, and we just like to do our part in helping that out. So I'll just leave it at that. Go ahead, Ryan.
All right, here we go. So I already mentioned who we are, and let me see if I can get the deck to, okay, there's a bit of a delay. So, Josh obviously represents, North Dakota Department of Commerce, so I might be stealing a little bit of the state thunder here, and I won't go through all of this, but I think it just reinforces that, North Dakota is obviously an ag state. That's our number one economic driver. We're the number 1 or number 2 in, over a dozen different ag products. Honey, if you didn't know, we're number 1 producer of honey. And then, over 90% of all North Dakota land area is dedicated to agriculture, whether that's farming or ranching. So, again, probably not a big surprise, but I think just, reinforcing that, we're an ag driven state. That's kind of, one of the reasons that the state, was founded and people moved here was to develop, homesteads and farm. And then just through innovation and, farmers seeing problems in the field or on their farm, they've developed, technologies to help them on the farm and have commercialized those technologies over the last 100 years. So companies like Steiger Tractor, another company like Bobcat, if you're familiar with the white and orange, compact construction equipment, Bobcat's a North Dakota founded company by the Melrose brothers over a half a century ago. And so there's a lot of lineage and pedigree there. So I'm going to focus kind of on the front end here on the community itself. I think a lot of people might not know about Fargo and our sister city, Moorhead. We're a border city, or border metro. So, Fargo's on the North Dakota side, Moorhead's on the Minnesota side. We're a college town. We're a ag tech town. Our population is just over 250,000 as a metro. Young population, as you would expect, with 3 universities and 2 colleges, a lot of college kids, and a place that it's we're proud of the fact that it doesn't take long to get around in terms of commute. So,
and if you're wondering, we're not like anything like the TV show or movie. We get that all the time. So if that's what you're hoping, it's not. Don't have the thick accents, and there's no mafia here either.
Just a little bit of demographics, and this slide's a little bit dated, so I apologize. I need to update it, but aside from COVID kind of impacting us, the metro area is adding a growth rate of just over 5% year over year, which is obviously it's positive. It's a good economic indicator. I'm gonna move on quick to, if you do want to know about the region more, and obviously with use of technology now, there's tools that we have to kind of showcase what it's like to live and visit a region. So I would encourage anyone that wants to know just more about kind of like what it's like to live here and what there is to do, to check out a couple of our resources. This is our virtual tour. So you can look at not just recreation and fun things to do. You can check out healthcare, education, business, and go to fmareatour.com. And then we have another website that just talks about kind of all the other statistics and has links to nightlife and links to other things that people want to know about the community. So check that one out too. When I talk about the region as kind of an ag tech cluster and an epicenter for ag tech activity, again, it's not a surprise, right? Plug and Play is here for a reason. And it's a lot of the momentum and the capabilities that have been developed here, whether that's through partnerships at North Dakota State University or the entrepreneurs and giants in ag technology. Some of you can see here, we have several John Deere intelligent solutions locations. So they do a lot of the electronic components and technology that go into John Deere equipment. CNH Industrial has a large manufacturing presence here. So they're developing and building tractors and construction equipment here. RDO Equipment, which I don't know if you can see the building behind me because I don't know if the lighting will allow, but the tower behind me is RDO's new headquarters, and they're the largest John Deere dealer in the country and one of the largest potato farms as well. Apario, which is a name you might not be familiar with, but they're an ag technology company. I was just acquired by AGCO. And then Bushel on the software side is obviously a success story. A company that's been raising a lot of capital, growing fast, and kind of digitizing and revolutionizing, transactions and tracking of digital and farm records, between elevators, co-ops, and farmers. So seeing a lot of growth there. And then in the bottom corner, I'm going to highlight Harvest Profit, another software fintech ag tech company. They developed a financial solution for farmer investors, and they just were acquired by John Deere, I think just within the last year. So kind of the full startup, a true startup company that one of those great success stories. In 5 years they scaled up, they pumped value into their company, and then they were acquired by an ag giant. So, and then another company I want to point out, Microsoft, which you might have heard of. A lot of people I think are surprised to find out that Microsoft's third largest campus in the country is here in Fargo. So we've got a lot of obviously that brings a lot of opportunity and sustainability to the tech talent in the region. And then a Farm QA, I should mention them. They were, I think, in the second or third cohort, but a Fargo founded company as well. And then just a little bit more about the ag tech sector in the region. So some of the names are redundant. We've got a growing bioscience and life science sector as well. So a company called Aldebaran at the top there, probably not a household name, but they were recently acquired by kind of a large conglomerate firm, Danaher, for $9.8 billion. And Aldebaran, I guess probably what they're most known for is providing some of the mRNA and protein and biologics for Moderna for the COVID vaccine. So just a kind of a little overview into the ag tech industry as we define it. So there's no kind of national standard in how economic development firms identify and define ag tech. So we put together kind of 10 industry sectors that we felt represented what we feel the ag tech industry should be defined as. Obviously something that will probably change over time, but you can see it's software heavy, it's farm equipment manufacturing heavy, but then it's just a lot of different industry sectors that cross over into multiple different industries as well. And we're about 44% above a national average for if you normalize a larger community down to the proportion of a community our size, we tend to stand out at about 44% above national average, and then 103,000 for average earning size. And then just in terms of what that represents in terms of our regional economy, it's about 1/15 of our regional economy. So our regional GDP is a little bit maybe $15 to $16 billion, and kind of the ag tech industries we're defining it as just under $1 billion. I mentioned briefly NDSU. So they've got the second precision ag degree program in the country. They've got some of the best soil scientists and agronomists in the world working at that institution. They've got a lot of research capabilities. They're deploying drone technologies. They're doing new varieties. They're doing things with biologics, sensors. I think right there is an autonomous rock picker that they develop, and they work closely with other partners like Grand Farm and Plug and Play, and a lot of the companies that that are drawn to the region. I want to also mention too, I talked about UAS earlier, and so again, kind of one of those, I think, hidden secrets about our part of the world is we're kind of a hub for unmanned aircraft systems and drone activity. We're one of the few places, one of only 7 places that is designated as a FAA test site by the federal government. And probably more recently, noteworthy investments, upwards of $60 million over the last 4 years have been put into building out our capabilities and beyond visual line of sight, which is kind of the holy grail when it comes to unlocking the economic potential of unmanned aircraft, is being able to fly them beyond the sight of a visual sight of an operator. And so that build out is currently happening in different stages to build radio and radar tower capabilities across the state, so that when that build out is done, one could fly a drone across the entire state without having to have an operator within line of sight. So all the things to think about. Some of it might not be relevant to your company, GreenSight. That's probably something that you're thinking about. And then some of the programs Josh already touched on, so I'll go light on those. But I think the key for anyone that's thinking about strategically where the future of their company, where they might look in terms of partnerships, talent, capital resources. Obviously, we're connected to a lot of that. We're happy to talk through that with you and give you any guidance, relative to your specific situation. And doing that earlier, I think helps inform your decisions moving forward. So for us, it's never too early to start those conversations. And then just all the great things about here's where we're number one in all these things. Everyone's got their list of things that make them great. And then our contact information. So I will open it for any questions, or John to clean up anything I might have said incorrectly.
Yeah, you didn't say anything incorrectly. The only thing I'll add, and I don't know if Josh touched on this since I jumped in late, but when Ryan showed the slide with the programs, just with a lot of those, it's pertaining to, you have to have activity here in North Dakota. So it's generally meaning like you have a presence here, not just a PO box or anything, but like maybe you have some people here, you're doing some development here, that kind of stuff. So it's just kind of stuff to keep in mind. A lot of great programs, and then we can always get into that stuff in detail later, but I just thought I'd mention that caveat. So sometimes some of those programs get a lot of attention from people.
Thanks, Ryan. Any questions from anyone? A lot of information, so we'll send this out and all the the links that you guys can take a look at the programs, and if you have any questions after this, you can reach out to them directly as well. So
Sarah, I'll mention one thing too real quick too, is that just so everyone knows as well, like our team, Plug and Play team, Commerce, and then like the Grand Farm team, we have regular calls, we communicate with each other a lot. So sometimes if you might talk to us and we think of how it relates to them, we'll maybe funnel you onto them, or vice versa. Things might go to Merge or Grand Farm first, and they'll say, hey, you should really talk to Commerce, or you should talk to the EDC. So again, it's just part of that connectivity of people here that we're pretty good about figuring things out and figuring out who's best to kind of get you connected to.
And I would say too, if you're thinking at some point about making a visit, whether that is, for was it Expo Week, or at some other point because it just makes sense for you to come and be in person. We're happy to curate a visit if there's some partnerships you're looking for. Maybe it's a research partnership at NDSU. Maybe it's companies that are in ag processing. Maybe it's someone that's deploying in field technologies. Let us know. We're happy to make connections and try to make a high impact visit for anyone that's looking at spending a few days in the area.
We just have to straddle the line and making sure we're not coming off as like a sales arm for you. So it's because we don't want to burn any bridges with our relationships. But if it's stuff that we feel like can really benefit their company, though, sometimes we'll let them know and say, hey, you might want to know, and then we leave it up to them to decide if they want to reach back out. But sometimes there's technologies that they're really interested in, and this is how they can learn about them.
Well, everybody's coming up for Expo, I heard in May, so we'll get to meet all of you guys. Just kidding, but we hope that you do come. It's, there's a lot more to Fargo, like they had alluded to, than probably the perception of Fargo. So we'd love to, showcase North Dakota and host you guys here in May. But the Grand Farm that they keep referencing, it's a physical test plot site here in Fargo, and it's a way for you guys to test your technology. And they have, what is it? How many projects? I can't remember now. They just said it. But numerous.
It's over 300 that they've done.
300 projects, up to 53 partners. They work closely with NDSU here, with the EDC, with Plug and Play. So really, really well-rounded, and you guys would have a chance to see that coming up here. So. All right, good deal. Well, thank you all for joining. We'll get this recap sent out to you. But again, let us know if you have any questions, and thank you, EDC team and Commerce team, for joining us.